Hello! Today I want to help you with establishing a really good recall with your dog. It may sound like a simple thing, but you've probably realised if you've got a new dog or have had one that isn't quite as obedient as you'd like her to be, that getting a really reliable recall is actually really quite difficult. The benefits of it obviously are huge in that the more your dog will do what you ask it to do, the more she'll come when you call her, the more freedom you can give her when you take her out. So it's really worth making an effort to do it. Like most commands, you must keep in practice, so you need to think about practicing recall with your dog every day in some form or another. So a couple of general points first. Like with any command, I always use a hand signal when I ask my dog to come when it's called. Particularly with the recall, it's valuable because your dog could be 100 meters away. And if you don't move when you give them the command, there's every chance that your dog won't see you because their vision is not as good as ours and it's based on movement. So move. I tend to just wave one arm if I'm in the house, and maybe if I'm outside, I might wave two. It's up to you. If you have a pup, if we're going to start looking at training a young puppy, it's actually relatively straightforward to get your pup to come when it's called, because up until they're about 16 weeks of age, something like that, depending on how individual and how strong their personalities are, they need to be close to you. They want to be with you. So it's a relatively easy thing to get your dog to come when it's called. Now, I've got Delphi here, who isn't a puppy anymore. She's just heard her name. But I can demonstrate what I mean with her. Always use your dog's name before you call it if you're insisting that it comes, but don't use your dog's name as a recall command. Choose a command like come, here. I always use come, and be consistent with it. As with most commands, all commands in fact, don't repeat the command. Say it once clearly and make it happen. And I'll show you how to do that. She suddenly appeared close to me, of course. Just the wrong moment. It doesn't matter. Oh, George is helping me. That's great. So I have a treat here as a reward, but that comes later. And I'm going to say, Delphi, come. Good girl. Now, if Delphi was a puppy, she wouldn't necessarily, good girl, she wouldn't necessarily sit down at that point. I recommend that when you first train a puppy, or any dog that hasn't been trained to come when it's called for that matter, don't insist that it sits down before you reward it, because by the time your pup sat down, it might have not forgotten, but not related the fact that it's sitting down to getting the fact that it's come, rather, to getting to the reward, and it might think it's being rewarded for sitting down. And you want to be sure that your puppy knows that it's coming to you that gives it the reward. Yes, that's good, isn't it? Now, a reward is food in this case, because it's something that most dogs, well, every dog needs food, but most dogs will respond well to. But a reward doesn't have to be food. A reward can be anything that your dog likes. In Delphi's case, you likes this, don't you, lovely girl? Yes, she says, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Or you might like to play with a toy briefly with your dog. But whatever it is, whatever you do, always congratulate your dog for coming when it's called. What you need to keep in mind is that one of the reasons it's so hard is that you have to compete with the world. You have to compete with all the distractions that are going on in the world. Yes, you've seen the treats, haven't you? Good girl. So you have to be really worth coming to for your dog to reliably return to you when you call her to come to you. Okay. And that's another reason why when you first start teaching your dog to come when it's called, do it inside your house where there are no distractions at all, or limited distractions, and slowly increase the level of distraction you expect your pup to cope with. So let's have another go with Delphi. I'm going to say, Delphi, come, and walk backwards. Yes, good girl, good girl, good girl. If your pup's reluctant to come, move backwards, because they will want to follow you, and she'll follow me anyway. You're like, yes, even at your age, you'll do it. You clever girl, lovely, okay. In a way, the more reluctant your dog is to come, the more you have to be pleased and happy when it gets there. Try not to keep saying come. And what I'll show you with Delphi is this. I'll say, come, good girl, oh, good girl. Yeah, good. Now I'm encouraging her all the time to come to me. I'm not repeating the command, but I hope I'm making it a worthwhile experience, aren't I? Now you're looking at me thinking, well, that was fun. So if you have an older dog, or even if you have a young pup and you're taking it outside for the first time, it's not so easy to ensure that it comes when it's called. A training line is essentially a very long lead. This one is 15 meters long, and it's the length I always use for training recall because it's long enough to give the dog some freedom, but it's short enough that it's not too difficult to handle, because if you can buy them in up to about 100 feet in length, but they can become really very cumbersome. And the idea of it is that I will connect it to my dog's collar, and then if she doesn't come when I call her, I have a means to make her. Now, this is not a device to haul your dog in like a fish on a line. It's all about just communicating with your dog and letting her know that you want her attention. So if I ask Delphi to stay there, sit, stay. You take a few steps back. I'm not going to say the word because she'll come, and I'm pretending now that I've asked her to approach me, and she hasn't. I'm not going to say the word, but I'm just going to do this. Come, good girl, good girl, good dog, good dog. So that's all you need. It's not a device to haul your dog to you. Now, the strategy of using one of these isn't always just to do it that way. If you want to get a really reliable recall with your dog, there's a really good way of doing it. I find if you have a line like this, roll it up when you take your dog for a walk so that it's the length of an ordinary lead, so that you can walk your dog next to you. When you want your dog to have some freedom, but without worrying that you're going to lose her, ask her to sit. Good. Hold the end of the line, and when you release your dog, just let the line go. Go on. Actually, I'm going to eat it. So every time she gets to the end of that line, every time, as soon as she feels the tension on her neck, I'm going to call her back. Come. Good girl. Good. When she gets to me, good. Well, I might give you a treat. Maybe I'll give you a treat today because we're doing a training exercise. You're doing so well. And then I can let her go again. So each time she comes back to me, I make it worth her while, but I also make her work, make her do something, sit, touch my hand, something else. And then she can go off again and explore. Good girl. So if you do that consistently, you may be doing it 2 or 3 times a minute to begin with, but you probably won't be doing it that often with a young puppy. But as time goes by, and relatively quickly, first of all, your dog will recognize the length of that line and won't pull beyond 15 meters. So they're learning that that's the pack space, the area around you is the area you want them to remain in. They will be learning to check in with you, which is a really valuable thing, so that your dog keeps in touch with you. And they will be learning that coming back to you isn't the end of the walk. So it means, amongst many other things, that when you get to the end of your walk, your dog will not be reluctant to come when you call it, because it's been doing it all the time. So it won't assume that it's going to be put on the lead and therefore rush off into the sunset, as some of them do. After doing that for a month, your dog should be coming reliably when you call her, because she's learned that she has no option, but she still gets the freedom to go away again, so she won't resent it. In the second month, do exactly the same with your dog. When you ask her to sit, to release her, let the line go completely. Now, you should find that it's not such a risk because your dog's more likely to come back to you anyway. But equally, your dog has a lot more freedom, and you only need to get to within 15 meters of her to capture the lead to get her back if you have a problem. So it's a stage towards taking the line away. In the third month, if you just unclip that lead, she's going to be aware of it because it has a weight to it. She will be aware of it, and you may well lose the work that you've already put in. So you need to be prepared to sacrifice the line. So cut about 1 meter off it every day if things are going well. So eventually you get to the point where she doesn't have much of a lead on her, and she will still be coming when she's called, and you will have effectively fooled your dog into believing the line is still there. But the habit will be so instilled by that time that it really won't make a difference. Do think about the associations your dog will make with the recall. Try and keep it positive. If you're going to call your dog and then stick her in the bath or put her in the car at the end of a walk, you need to remember that she might think, well, that's not a very positive thing, and perhaps I don't want to do it if the consequences are not positive. So if you know that your dog's not going to like what it is you're going to do when she gets to you, go and get her. Or you could perhaps choose another command instead. But if I'm going to bath one of my dogs, particularly scruffy, dirty little terrier, I go and get him, because if he sees the bath, he's off, and I don't blame him really. So there's that. When your dog reaches you, however reluctant they are to come to you, still praise them. If you find that you've called your dog and, oh my goodness, you've forgotten to put the lead on, and the dog's going, oh, I'm not coming, you haven't got the lead on me, and you want your dog to come, don't start shouting, don't escalate your voice. What you can do, I won't do it with Delphi because she won't understand, but you walk, well, I'll try it, but I walk towards the dog and I will say, come, 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 good, and then I'll lead the dog to where it was I wanted it to be. Good, good girl. And then praise it as if it had come. Go on, off you go, good girl. As if it had come when it was called. So the important thing is that when your dog reaches you in the place you want it to be, you're still praising it. So it won't fear it, because it's a real dilemma for a dog to refuse to come when it's called and then think, I'm going to have a real problem if I now go to my owner, my owner's going to be cross. And you don't want that. You want your dog always, always to want to be with you. I'd like to see if I can demonstrate to you with Delphi the difference between being enthusiastic when you call your dog and not, to see whether it makes a difference to her. So I'm going to try this. I'll take the lead off because I don't think she needs it. Sit, stay. Delphi, come. Good girl, good girl. And for the purposes of this exercise, I will give you a treat because you're a good girl. Good girl. Woo. Right, hey, tell Delphi, sit, stay. And I was just being calm there. This time I'm going to be a bit more excited about it. In fact, I'll do it from that end so that you can see clearly. Come with me. Come in, sit, stay. Delphi, come, yay, good girl, hey, good dog, good dog, good dog. See the difference? She's completely different. Well done. And you can have a treat as well as a cuddle and as well as a bit of fun. Go on then, off you go. Okay. It's the sooner you start training your dog to come when it's called, the better. When it's a puppy, as soon as you get it, whatever stage of life your dog is when you get it, practice and practice. The more you practice, the easier it gets. I would also say that even though it is distracting, if you take your young dog, puppy or older dog for that matter, to classes where it is in the company of other dogs, practice calling it out of that group. At my puppy classes, we always train the puppies that they can play with one another for a while, but they have to come away when their owners ask them to. If you can get your puppy to come to you willingly out of a group of other puppies, you can call it from anywhere. So thank you for watching. Don't forget that I offer one-to-one online training as well as one-to-one training in person if you happen to be local to me, which is Monmouthshire. Do feel free to contact me at any time if you have any training questions. If you're enjoying my videos, please do subscribe to my channel, and you can find me on Facebook under Focused Instruction for Dogs and Owners. You might also like to visit my website, www.fidobehaviour.com, where you'll find lots of articles about dog training, behaviour issues, nutrition, and also a blog from one of my own dogs describing her view of the world.